Hello everyone and welcome to a round 4 match at the Worcester Sheriff event. It's the game of the two Dans, Dan V on the left against Dan, also known as Whizwang, on the right. It's Oddities versus Morgan Gadgetorium, and it's cards up to and including no Nightmare at Noon for this match. So both players starting with a very standard posses. The Brute, Pagliaccio, Leonardo and Valeria for Dan. He also started Freddy, but Freddy's been ace to go and fetch a Blood Curse and a Soul Blast. And then over on the right, Dan's got Irving, Jake, Travis, William Specs, Carl, and the completes are there, and using his Travis to re-get his 5 cards. And I think the right choice, starting off with the spells chosen, Soul Blast and Blood Curse. You want your opponent to have the Blood Curse rather than the Soul Blast, especially with the Morgan gadgets where you're starting 4 dudes, all with a value of 2 or less, and a Grit's also not very good, but Soul Blast is against values, so he says, but I'll go and check that. No, it is a dude's Grits, but they're all very low Grits. I mean, Irving's only a 3, Jake is a 2, Irving's a 3, and Carl a 3 as well. So Quaterman coming out for Dan on the right. Is playing obviously a gadget deck with the Gadgetorium. He did use the Gadgetorium there to invent the Quaterman. It's going to be a Rapier over for Dan on left, moving his Pagliaccio into the town square to get the extra influence. Oddities, without being in control of the town square, is very low on the influence, only starting 3 here. You'd have a maximum of 5 if you didn't Freddy. But Shadow Walk going on to Valeria. Lula's exploits from down a force field, which I imagine is going to go on the Quaterman after being invented by Kyle. Yes, so just going through whether there was. I would expect you to see a paralysis mark in Dan's opening hand. He didn't go and fetch the paralysis mark, and I would have thought a paralysis mark would have been better over a Blood Curse. Circle M for Dan. Going to give him some good income. I might expect. Well, Dan V could go and contest this, especially with Valeria the Shadow Walk. He could easily move away, and it would draw perhaps the Irving into a poor position. Although I imagine the Quaterman, the Quaterman is actually not very good at the moment. There's no money for Dan. Or Whizwang, I'll have to call him. So Whizwang I'm going to call down on the right, and Dan I'm going to call down on the left. Yeah, so the Quaterman, there's no money on for using a force field, so it's only 1 stud against what is likely to be 1 stud and 3 or 4 draw for Dan, so he doesn't want to. I think so. Both players pass and unboot. So I'm a bit surprised that not to the paralysis mark. It's very good against gadget decks because it boots. If you get to go first, you're in the town square. Your paralysis mark. It boots the guy who can invent gadgets. So particularly in this case, William or Kyle. Probably William first because William also has that secondary ability to make ranches cheaper. And I imagine Dan Whizwang's gadget deck here is going to be very much running a lot of ranches. We've already seen Circle M and Lula's exploits. So it's 2 pair on the left versus 3 of a kind on the right. So Dan wins that low ball again. 2 low ball wins. Might have the slightly weaker structure. Difficult to know that early in the game. I mean, seen roughly 15 cards on each side. Not too sure how strong the structure is going to be. But I think very much Dan is running a very standard 8s, jacks and queens. We've seen the Rapier and the Forget there in the discard pile, so very standard, typical for this point in the card pool. I think if you're watching this video with the card pool increasing, so I'm recording this while Dirty Deeds are out, so I think that a lot has changed in terms of the meta game and what factions are powerful. We've obviously now got both of the new factions available to players that weren't available at this event. So it was only the original 4 factions, and I just think people are moving away from 4th ring and the standard 8 Jack Queen. I don't particularly know why. I don't think they've particularly fallen off that much in terms of their relative power or how good they are. I mean, it's still a very strong archetype, Paralysis Mark and Blood Curse. Quaterman moving over to contest Circle M. I think it's 5 or 6 cash there for Dan, so it's going to give him a good position to fight this. He also may move Kyle over and Travis. Travis especially, he's used his Grifter ability, he's not any influence, so he's not going to contest any deeds. I'm not sure whether Wizwang is running any things, so Leonardo comes over to join Circle M. I think the Quaterman has called out Valeria, and doesn't look like there's a lot in there. There's a Hex Sling in there in Dan's hand, but otherwise it looks like it's a Weighty Estate and a Dude and a Joker. Or not something you ever want to see in your draw in your play hand is the Joker. It's at the moment not too many ways of discarding cards from hand. So yep. So Kyle and Travis going over to join Quaterman. Little bit more surprised by Kyle. I mean he is a mad scientist. He can invent the gadgets. And so it would want to use him to invent gadgets. I don't know how many gadgets Wizwang is running in this. It may be he's not running that many gadgets, so he thinks he can afford to get away with just William specs. But I mean, you also like to use Carl William just for getting the ranches to play them for cheaper. It's his secondary ability on William specs is very good. You don't just want to. He's as just a mad scientist. William specs isn't that good, but. So not using Blood Curse, I think is the right thing. It's only going to stop one draw from Travis. You have Travis as your shooter, one stud from both the Quaterman and Kyle. It's one stud from Quaterman and then one draw from Kyle. Dan on the left, he's I think something 2 or 3 stud. I think it's 2 stud with Valeria, and then 3 draw. So I think both looking for a full house or better. Cheating, he probably doesn't want to try it this time. I haven't seen what cheating cards Wizwang's running. I can't actually see his discard pile in the video, so I don't know where he's been discarding gadgets that we've seen so far. It's in 8, so this will hurt in the morning, and that's very powerful. So full house versus full house, both legal. Travis, so taking you with me, that's going to cause another casualty for Dan, so probably going to have to be the Brute. I know it's not ideal because you want to use the Brute to cover the acing, but you can't really lose Valeria or Leonardo here. Yeah, and he can't ace the Pagalatio as the extra casualty. It's after taking a casualty. Although taking you with me is yeah, I think actually there he probably shouldn't be allowed to play taking you with me because he has the higher flush, full house. Sorry, that's a mistake. I think it's after you take casualty for losing a round of a shootout. He hasn't lost. He's won that technically. So. Dan is going to both players staying. I think this is possibly a mistake from Dan because it's still got the force field from Quaterman. Yes, he's only drawing 1 stud and 1 draw, so he may not get anything good. But I mean, Dan's got to be looking at best probably full house, 4 of a kind, and so 5. Yeah, so cheating 4 of a kind versus legal full house. No cheating resolution from Dan. That's I think possibly another mistake there for. I think he's going to Hex Sling, so he's going to be up by 1, but it's going to be just pay 1 money for Lula's to. Yeah, so both equal again after paying 1 from Lula's exploit for the force field, and that's going to be either the loss of Valeria or Leonardo. It's I think got to be Valeria because at the moment So yeah, Valeria is going. So down to 2 influence for Dan. He's lost a lot of his dudes. I can't see a lot. And I think then both players passing, or Dan's. Yeah, so both players just discussing and saying they should have. Dan should have run away last turn, which I think is the correct thought there. He doesn't really want to lose Valeria or Leonardo. Even if he goes home booted, he's not got any deeds in play that he can go and contest. He's got rid of Travis. I mean, it obviously would have been a lot different had he should have stayed had it been not playing taking him with me. But fancy new hat for the Quaterman, so he's going to go and contest deeds, even though he doesn't have any. But Dan is not really in a position to contest deeds much anymore. Leonardo's only actual influence ticks removed to the town square, and obviously getting influence, but as soon as he moves to a deed, he'll lose that. And I think that's perhaps why the Oddities type deck has fallen a bit foul. You can't challenge opponents' deeds with all these low zero influence abominations that have influence in the town square and stop you losing them, but you can't go and contest deeds, and you can't sort of stop those landslide, which is again becoming popular with the Kung Fu, the 108. So it's not the best archetype there. People going for more aggressive decks, things that can force shootouts or with jobs and things like kidnapping, the new forced quarantine, those such things. So William Specs, he got a flamethrower, and then Jacqueline is going to come in. So could be, I think it's definitely 8 for Wizwang. Possibly kings as well. Maybe Jacqueline is just a starter if he thinks he doesn't want to Travis, and if he's going against something uber aggressive like maybe a Desolation Row, he'll start Jacqueline, make sure he has that stud to start with, isn't forced to sort of look for a Quaterman as soon as possible. Pair of kings, whereas pair of 9s for Dan, so Dan's going to win low ball again. That's 3 out of 3. Loses a Joker though, which is not going to be too bad. I mean, he's almost at the end of his deck, so another shootout, he's got a chance of seeing the Joker that he's just discarded. It's those ones you have to discard when you've got your whole deck left that you really don't want to see those. You have to discard those Jokers. So lots of money coming for Dan. He gets 5 minus 2, so no, sorry, 7 minus 2, so 5 plus then the 2 on Lula's exploit. So that Quaterman is going to be very difficult to kill. I'm not sure. You probably should have put. Yeah, perhaps not on the Quaterman. You should have saved that for Jacqueline, because the Quaterman with the force field is going to tie, and then you're probably going to get rid of that Quaterman if it's probably possibly Jacqueline now. Although say maybe Jacqueline would be better to keep than the Quaterman. Quaterman's only 1 stud, where Jacqueline 2 studded if she's called out, and Wizwang not really going to have to go for anything aggressive at the moment. He's no deeds coming out from Dan, very little influence. So the flamethrower goes on to Jacqueline. Or that may have gone on last turn, I'm not sure. Paralysis mark onto Leonardo. It's going to be difficult. Another paralysis mark in hand there, so he's going to be able to boot people, but he can't boot the Quaterman, so that's perhaps why he's put the force field on to Quaterman, because he can always go and force the shootout there. General Store from Wizwang. Another paralysis mark onto Dan. And we're going for a secured stockyard for Wizwang. That succeeds. Yes, I think it is kings, or queens, 8 queens and kings. Other kings. Yeah, dudes, yeah, that's interesting. Don't see too many king decks, especially as well before the light shineth. So, as I said earlier, we're already playing up to Nightmare at Noon here. The light shineth introduced the new cheaper kings, but with the original king value dues. Biocharge Neutralizer, trying to be invented by William Specs. That is going to succeed. So the Jack there. So yeah, so it's definitely 8 and high values. I don't know what his split of those 3 are. Whether he's sort of gone for a 4 value deck or whether he's focused on 3. I mean, he is winning No, it definitely looks like Jack's though. There's El Grajo, I think. Even after that comment that told me how to pronounce it, I still can't do it very well. But not in check at the moment. But Dan, I expect, will wait till Wizwang will wait till next turn when he force the fight with the Quaterman and Jacqueline or El Grajo. And if you can get rid of ticks, that's game. There's only two influence on two permanent influence on Dan's side. Three if the third comes from ticks being in the town square. So if he gets knocked out from the town square, then he'll lose that influence. Wizwang on the other hand, he's sitting very comfortably at 6 influence. He's got several now. He's got both El Grajo and Jacqueline Isham as 0 influence dudes, can go and force fights. And I imagine we could have one here. I mean, they could go and fight ticks in town square. So yeah, Irving's off to Jackson Strike. So perhaps Wizwang not trying to end it just yet. Trying to cut the money down for Dan. Still got that Waitley estate. He's got A.V. Klein, the experienced version. So Jacqueline moving to the town square, and that's why I'm surprised to see Irving go. If he's going to force a fight, I think would wait to see if Dan does play a deed or something late when there's no influence to move. Although I suppose he still has the Quaterman and Jake as both movable influence, so it's not too detrimental to send Irving over to Jackson Strike and force. But perhaps he thought that Dan would move Leonardo over there to keep the income. But no, Dan doing the right thing to. I think so. Yeah, ticks booting to boot Jacqueline, but now El Grajo is coming. That's going to possibly paralysis mark him, so that's going to force Jake to. Well, no, so El Grajo now is going to call out ticks. He has to accept. Dan's posse is the Quaterman, El Grajo, and Jacqueline. So even he's still got 3 money effectively for powering the force field, 2 from Lula's exploit, and 1 on his home. Whereas Dan has just ticks. I don't think he's going to move Leonardo, because if it all goes wrong, he needs to move Leonardo to a deed and try and force a shootout. Probably the secured stockyard, because that also can get him some extra money. No bounties, which I can't remember if Dan Wizwang got from the fight back at Circle M Ranch in the first or second turn. First turn, I think it was. Second. It was second turn. Because it is a private, so he should have got 1 for the brute, 1 for Valeria, and 1 for the Pagliaccio. But I can't remember. I think he may have done. I'm not quite sure, but two stuff for Dan. Got a chance at full house. I think he's just got to cheat through the moon here. Best hand you get, cheating or not, you've got to go for it. Wizwang, he's on lots of stud as well, 3-5 stud I think, so you've got to expect full house, 4 of a kind or such. So 2 pair versus 4 of a kind. Nothing he could do there. It looked like he got the 3 pairs. There was a pair of 8s discarded, so that off value 10 hurting him. So paralysis mark, he's going to try and paralysis mark El Grajo. That does fail again as well. That's unfortunate because he really needed El Grajo booted. Because if El Grajo wasn't, then only Jake could go and contest. And I don't think Jake would start a fight. So he's booting to move to Circle M. As good as secured stockyard. I probably would have preferred secured stockyard, because if it does go another turn, he could boot that. If he wins low ball, boots it for the money, and then he's more likely to be able to play A.V. Klein. Because at the moment he needs to play dudes, Dan. Deeds is a very risky manoeuvre. There's so much movable influence out for Wizwang at the moment that he can't really risk bringing a deed down. It's already Wizwang has checkable influence. He could just move Jake here and win. I'm not sure why he isn't. Because it's 2 influence. It's so. Yeah, so I'm not sure why he didn't just win there, Dan. He could have just moved Jake Oh no, sorry. There was a blood curse still on Leonardo, so maybe he blood cursed Jake. I'm not sure. I didn't see the booting, but only Quaterman. You need to move Irving, and that's why moving Irving there is slightly a bad manoeuvre. Because if he kept Irving before having that shootout, then he could have moved Irving and won the game there. But I think he probably moved Irving to the outer town, seeing those paralysis marks. He didn't want to get Irving booted, so instead, I think so. Another ace used for Dan there. He also sees Valeria again. Got rid of AV Climb, which I'm surprised by. I would have thought he wouldn't want to keep AV, get rid of the Waitley estate. I mean, he's not going to be able to play the Waitley estate. It's just going to get moved to, and I think maybe that was another copy. No. So yes, I think no, I can't see a reason why you want to keep the Waitley estate there. The game's not going to go on for several more turns, probably at this rate, unless you can play some dudes. So playing AV would be a good way. I think she's 4-2 as well, or a 6-2, so maybe he just doesn't have the money. Yeah, so 6 money. I think he's got, what, 4 at the moment there, is that? Maybe 5, so if he had gone to secured stockyard, he would have had the extra cash. And I think perhaps the reason he went to Circle M was so he can paralysis mark people at home. Irving is booted, but shouldn't be. El Grajo getting a rapier in the town square using general store. Yeah, so Irving should be unbooted, but is not. Paralysis mark fails. That's frustrating, isn't it, to see both. He just passed it on William with the 2, but he does fail. I'm not sure who he was trying to cast against there. I think must have been El Grajo, maybe Jacqueline, probably El Grajo. Jacqueline would have been very difficult to. Would probably only be 1 of 3. Blood curse there, going on Leonardo, so it's going to just try and reduce lots of bullets. But he can't reduce Quaterman's bullets. Quaterman calls out Leonardo. He can't afford to go home. He needs to stay around. And as Wizwang says, if he goes home booted, it is check. So there we go, unbooting Irving, as he should be. It's very difficult to win here, though, because so much money for Wizwang. He's got, I think, 4 money, maybe 5, with the force field. So unless Dan has a way to get rid of that force field, I can't see how he can get out of here. Because even if Wizwang loses horribly and has nothing, he's going to have to. He's still going to get a draw. I mean, 7 ranks. I'm just pull up the hand rank list, and maybe 5 of a. He's hoping for 5 of a kind, and then he's going to go for a pair. Wizwang's going to get so no better than a pair against 5 of a kind is his only way. Not really a straight flush. So 4 of a kind, high card would be 7. He'd be able to do it still. So El Grajo is booting to go back up. Jake come into this posse. I think that's for the influence to. So succeeds reducing some bullets on El Grajo, but it's still Jacqueline to be a shooter. I mean, it's still 5 or so stud with a draw. Yeah, I know I'm sounding defeatist, but I think it's very difficult here for Dan to be able to do anything, even with force field. He's using actually 2 money from Lula's to increase force field on Jacqueline. So I think it's 7 or 8 stud. Perhaps the right move, perhaps not. I don't think it was necessary there. Even if he drew terribly, not going to see a dead man's hand from Dan. 5 of a kind. Cheating is going to be his best. Probably no cheating card in Wizwang's hand, because he wouldn't have gone for that if he had a cheating resolution. He would have just used it, I think, in the case of a 5 of a kind. We've seen both jokers from Dan. So 4 of a kind or better. He still gets away with the draw. It's definitely a legal 4 of a kind versus cheating full house, and that's game. And yeah, so a couple of mistakes there, I think, from Dan that really cost him. The the Valeria dying, staying in that shootout for another round really cost him, because he lost one of each, and when you lose no influence against losing one influence, you're left with just two, and then you've got no real dudes, no income to get more dudes either. And the problem with no income, you're not cycling cards, so yeah, I'm not sure. Other than that, I don't think Dan played it that badly. Wizwang had a good hand. We'll ignore the illegal play, but overall a good match. So thanks everyone for watching. I'll be back with another game soon. Thanks very much.